Lance Kreiderman. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Lance ended up being here, because he was wondering that himself. And so Lance and I did, we took a course and we both signed up for it just a couple weeks before the COVID crazy chaos hit. We signed up for a course with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and it was called KBB, the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. And when we signed up for the course, we were signing up for this program that was, all about building masterminds and, scaling up your business. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden, we were now learning how to take the things that we were learning and basically shifting them so that we could do things 100% online. And when Lance and I were talking about it yesterday, I wrote down, it actually became a pivot program, because what a lot of people are learning to do right now is pivot. So whether you're an investor or a parent or somebody who's had to cancel their vacation, there's been a lot of pivoting going on. And so we ended up being in this pivot program together, and there were thousands of people on the program, and we learned so much, and I've been able to share some of the learnings with my team, and we've been already inputting a lot of it. And Lance was an award winner, and I love the award he won. He won the Do Whatever It Takes award, because Lance is really passionate about getting shit done and doing whatever it takes. And so he won this award out of the thousands of people who were participating in the course. And I was like, I got to have Lance on board, because he's got such a great story. So Lance is running an organization called Enabling Abilities. He's a Paralympian, and we were both at the Sydney 2000 Olympics together. Like, right? Small world. He was in the Paralympics. I was working for the ceremonies team, and we were both there together. Fantastic stuff. He's a success coach. He's worked at universities trying to help people who have disabilities navigate being through university and university programs. And he's now the award winner for the Whatever It Takes award with the KBB program. So I'm really excited to welcome Lance. And Lance, we're going to just welcome you to give us a little bit about your story, share a little bit about you, and we'll have some questions. And ladies and gentlemen, as we go along, if you have some questions for Lance, feel free to pop them in that question box, and we'll get to them for you. So Lance, take it away.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here. I'm honored to be asked to speak to you. I was a little bit surprised and taken back. I didn't really know if my story applied to everyone here, but nonetheless, I guess it does, because I'm all about doing whatever it takes to get things done. I have a physical disability, cerebral palsy. I was diagnosed at 10 months old, and I've lived my life essentially in a power wheelchair from day one. I was 4 years old, okay? Imagine a 4-year-old boy in a power wheelchair. Inside the house. Let's just say my house was a wreck. I don't know how my parents could manage having a 4-year-old in a power chair in the mid-'80s. It was pretty bad. But anyway, as was already mentioned, I took the KBB course because I had spent about 11 years in the post-secondary environment supporting students with disabilities. And part of the challenge that I was running into in the last few years is that I haven't been able to support students at the same level that I was in previous years, because the resources are depleted. We have more students coming in and less staff to support them. So at the end of the day, I wasn't able to provide the same one-on-one support, and I was really starting to feel frustrated and kind of stuck and not able to support students. But instead of trying to blame others and say the system is broken and expect the university to fix the problem, I've decided to make a shift and to change how I approach my support for students with disabilities and those with disabilities in general. And my mission is quite simple. It's to explain that no matter what the challenge is, whether we have cerebral palsy, whether we have any kind of challenge in our life, anything is possible. I'm a Paralympic athlete. And in fact, it's a funny story. The whole Paralympic journey started in 1993 when I was only 12 years old. But then I worked my way up to the Paralympic level by 2000 and retired from the sport in 2001, only because I said, I'm not going to make any money at this. I, I won't be able to make a life for myself. So I decided to go on and complete a degree in psychology and then move on to a master's in business administration after that. But then in 2017, I ended up watching the National Bocce Championships. And this is the sport that I was playing way back when. And I ended up watching that sport, watching the national championships, looked at my wife and said, I need to get back into this. I'm not done yet. So, yeah, lo and behold, thank goodness she was very supportive. I ended up going back into the sport by 2017, 16 years later. The moral of this story is, no matter how long it's been between these things, anything is possible. I took a 16-year hiatus, General, and I ended up going back into sport. If I can do that, what is stopping anybody from achieving their goals? Honestly,
It's
yeah.
such a great message, Lance. And when we were talking yesterday, the possibilities, and as we've been doing these free webinars over the last couple of months, and all of my panelists can attest to this, the conversations we've been having are about transitioning through the period where first you're sticking your head in the sand, and then you're kind of coming out and you're binge watching Netflix, and then you're starting to get outside a little bit and starting to think, well, can I make use of this time? Can I, we've been telling people, get your will done, get your taxes done, get your business plan done. And so, what Lance has been doing during this time, he's done this massive KBB program, and he's
Yes.
starting his new business, and he's getting ready. I mean, I think you were going to the Olympics this summer, but they got delayed. So, there'll be another something coming down the road in terms of where and when that's going to be. But you certainly didn't sit around feeling sorry for yourself, did you, Lance?
Well, and that's the thing, right? I've always, everybody sits here and says, oh, this COVID thing, what are we going to do? And the message that I have for people is, because I have a disability, the fact of the matter is that I'm often spending a lot of time in my house anyway. So this whole COVID thing that's got everybody else up in arms is kind of a normal thing for me. But that being said, it does present opportunity. I mean, I probably would not have completed the KBB course in a 6-week time frame if it wasn't for the COVID shutdown. And I certainly wouldn't have started doing my own events. I just held an event this afternoon. Tabitha was there as well. And I continue to support people with disabilities, and I'm using this time to try and build this new business so that I can support people in a different way and make that shift or that pivot so that I can still support people, but I want to do things on my own terms instead of having. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I love the fact that you want to support people. Again, we were having this conversation yesterday about when you're struggling, right? When you are going through some change, what are some of the things that you can do? And one of the things that we talked about, gratitude, being grateful for what you have, being grateful for the people who you're surrounded with, being grateful to live where you live. I mean, I think a lot of us are on the call from Canada. I'm in BC, Lance is in Ontario. I think there's a lot of people who feel like with our healthcare system, we're pretty happy to be where we are. And one of the things that Lance was saying was he feels great when he's helping other people. And so here's someone who's got some struggles of his own, but he's like fired up and wants to support other people. And I think it's a really great message for us to hear, that when we go out into the community, we help others, we feel gratitude about what we have, we are unstoppable. And as Lance has mentioned, anything becomes possible.
Absolutely, without question.
Fantastic. Great. So a couple of questions that we talked about yesterday.
Sure.
We were talking about some of the challenges. I mean, apart from the obvious challenges, and we've hit on a couple of them here. Imagine being someone with a person with a disability and being in isolation right now. Like, it must be, you've got your friends and your family. You can't necessarily see as many of them. Some of us who are trying to support our grandparents or our parents who are living alone. Just again, thinking about how many challenges someone like Lance has had to overcome. How has this been in isolation? I mean, you said you've learned a lot. Have you been able to get outside and get some fresh air?
I've definitely tried to spend a little bit of time outside, especially around here where I live, and just kind of sit and relax. I haven't been able to go very far, which in my case, that's fine. I'm quite used to being kind of at home a lot. So, like I said when I was talking about it, it really hasn't been that difficult for me because I'm quite used to that kind of staying at home and doing what I can from home. That being said, I am very active in the community where I live, and I'm, involved with sport and coaching other athletes and doing different things. So that's been a little bit difficult. Not being able to reach out and support athletes and do those things has been kind of challenging. But at the end of the day, I'm able to do Zoom calls. I'm able to do different things like that and make the best of the situation.
And Lance, remind me, how many Zoom meetings have you had already today?
Just 3.
And so this is the 4th?
Yes, this will be the 4th one.
So you're keeping very busy.
Trying to, yes. Trying to.
And one of the things we were talking about yesterday, and I think it's relative to what we've been discussing as well, is there are a lot of people who are going through this kind of, traumatic COVID experience. And this is the first kind of bit of real trauma they've had, right? Like going through something that is, oh my God, we've never gone through something like this before. And we were talking about drawing on people who have had some challenges before and using some of the things that they've gone through. We talked a little bit yesterday, Lance, about what it was like for you to be at university and how you really relied on someone who was there to help you navigate. For you, going to university, was probably a little bit of a challenge. And thank goodness, because I had said, oh my goodness, when you went to university, there probably wasn't someone like you to turn to. But you did have someone like you to turn to. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like to have that person and that person who kind of had your back and walked
Sure.
you through it?
I can definitely talk about him. So I was actually very fortunate. I went to the university here in my hometown of Sudbury, and I went to Laurentian University, and we were fortunate that the manager of accessibility services was actually a man who was a quadriplegic. And at least when I started there as a student, he was there to guide me. And then when I finished my degree in psychology, he actually gave me my first job and gave me that shot to support students. And I'll tell you a funny story about that, because I remember going into his office before I actually registered for my first class, and I told him right off the bat, I'm going to work for you one day, and I'm going to support students. I knew from day one what I wanted to achieve. And he said, you know what? I believe you, and I know that you'll do it. It took me 6 years to get through the degree, because obviously I wasn't able to do a full course load. I probably would have killed myself if I tried to do that. So I did it a little bit slower than the average student. Took a few less courses a semester. So it took me 6 years to get through, but at the end of the day, I was able to get through it. And then I started working for this man, and he gave me my first shot. So without him, And without his encouragement, I would not be where I am today, without question. You know,
So
he's lived the experience, and he actually did his degree as well. So he was able to give me a lot of insight that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I
it's
wanted to provide that to students
it's
as well.
so important to be able to have someone who's got your back. You know, we talk a lot here in our group about, you know, your trusted tribe. So mentors, coaches, people who have similar values or similar challenges to you. And so, you know, I just think about, imagine how much more difficult it would have been for you, and relating that to each of us who have sometimes had challenges to overcome, you know, and thinking about who can you reach out to. You know, one of the things I talk about a lot is, and I admitted, I think on our last webinar, that I had a weekend of hiding under the covers, right? And I was just like, I'm checking out for the weekend. I need to take a break. So who do you reach out to when you need some help, and do you actually ask for the help that you need? And so it's so important as we start to, you know, and you've heard me say this before, as we move from the crisis of COVID into the managing of it, what are the things that we are doing so that we're not in this fear and stick your head in the sand and shrink, and we're listening to people like Lance who are saying, you know, now's the time to create opportunity, take advantage of some things that you wouldn't have been able to before. Suddenly you have time that you didn't have before. Are you starting to come into that place where you're going to be able to make use of some of that, and you know, as I like to say, get some shit done? So it's, yeah, I love it. Thanks, Lance.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the things that we talked about yesterday, and we won't dive too much into it today, but we were talking about how, you know, one of the reasons you left the university is because you wanted to focus on people who had disabilities, and in your role as an advisor, you ended up dealing with people who just had complaints about everything. So
Yes.
so, you know, like, there's so many things, like we now are living in this, you know, social media and Twitter, and a president in the US who has, you know, 10,000 complaints on Twitter, and they're actually trying to figure out if they need to take him off Twitter. So we were talking about how Lance wasn't able to do his work that he wanted to do because people were just bloody well whinging all the time, and not tapping into their coping skills, and not reaching out to people who maybe were peers, who might have been better sounding boards for them than you know, Lance, and having to shift from what he wanted to do to looking after people who were just making complaints. So as I say, we won't go too far into that because that's a whole other topic. But I think it's just really,
Absolutely.
exactly right. I think it's just really important to acknowledge that, you know, there are a lot of things that we could complain about these days, and is it really helpful to just complain for the sake of complaining? Can you think of some other ways to express yourself, or can you think of some other ways to move through the idea or the issue? I learned something this morning that I shared when we first got on the webinar, and I learned this new thing this morning called stop. And so I'll share it with you really quickly. So when you are being faced with frustration, or you're, you know, somebody's kind of in your face, or something, this acronym really works. I love it. So it's stop. So S is for stop. T is for take a breath, you know, rather than just pushing forward. Stop, take a breath. O is for, oh my goodness, and I just left me, observe. Just went out of my head for a second. Observe what's going on. Observe the moment. Observe the present time that you're in. And then P is for proceed with caution and compassion. So think about, what is the other person dealing with that you might not be aware of? Because we all have stuff, right? We've all got
Absolutely.
stuff that we're dealing with. And so when you slow down and you put yourself in the other person's shoes, and you know, be compassionate and proceed with caution, it gives you that chance to kind of just slow down a little bit and reassess the situation. And I'm sure that that we all have lots of tools. But Lance, we were talking about, yeah, coping skills. and just trying to back off a little bit from just the general complaints for the sake of complaining.
Well, one of the things that I try to talk about a lot when I'm either training students or somebody else is I talk about focus on, okay, we recognize that there's a challenge or there's a problem, but instead of just complaining about that issue or that problem, try to develop some creative solutions. Try to come up with some ideas on how to address it, and then come forward and say, yes, this is a problem. I've thought it through. These are the steps that I think we need to take to address this challenge. It's being proactive. It's actually taking some action to correct the problem rather than just focus on complaint and making other people find the solution for us.
Fantastic. That's great. Good stuff. So, Lance, anything else that you want to share before I start and have a look in the question box and see what everybody?
I'm not sure if I covered everything that you wanted me to cover, but that was generally the things that I thought I needed to talk about. But if there's anything else, please let me know.
It was great, and I'm just gonna pop open this chat box and share some of the messages that we've had here. Yeah, we had lots of people say hi. Great to hear Lance's message. Love it. Thank you, Lance, for sharing that wonderful message with us. I'm just trying to pop this open here. As you all, there we go. I just managed to pop it open. Love the confidence. I'll be working with you after graduation. So that was what you said to your and that's it, right? Like it's putting that intention out there and asking, right? Like I had a conversation with a colleague earlier today, and he asked me about sponsorship, and I said, yeah, I want a $10,000 sponsorship from you, right? It's like, well, if he says no, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? We still chatted for an hour afterwards, but it's you gotta put it out there and ask. What's the worst that could happen? People are going to say no. Supporting athletes during COVID-19 is inspirational. Love it. Supporting others. Yep, that's what we do at WREN. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Great message. Wonderful to hear. Instead of blaming others, Lance shifted himself. No sitting around and feeling sorry for yourself. Message. So,
Never.
Yeah, exactly. So we're at about 4:30. So what I'd like to do now is, if there are people who want to pop in and share what they would like to, either about what Lance, what you've heard today, or if you have been struggling with something, you're in a safe place, you've got some great people that you can talk to. If you want to ask Lance or our panelists who are here a question, please feel free to do that. And just go ahead and unmute yourself. There's quite a few people on. There's about 45 people on the, 20 people on the call, and about 40 messages. So feel free to jump in and say hi. Anybody feeling like they're brave and want to make a comment? Go ahead, Dar.
I'll take. Oh, who's that? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Darlene.
Oh, well, I just want to say, Lance, first time to have an opportunity to meet you, and you're so inspiring and not letting anything stop you. You know, not using excuses, love the confidence, and it's easy to see after hearing your story why you won that award. You are an inspiration for so many people that, you know, even with a few challenges that are not really challenges for you, because you don't let it stop you, which is awesome. And I think, you know, the world needs to hear more people like you, so people can realize, hey, excuses, know that they have nothing on you at all. So it's a pleasure to meet you, and appreciate you sharing. And you just you go, man, you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dar. Anybody else feeling brave, want to jump in?
So I will.
Go for it.
I don't know if I can get my video on. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know how to make my box smaller here. Anyways, I'm Tabitha, and I have CP as well. So Lance and I connected through a fitness program that we do. And then Lance told me about this because I'm actually in real estate as well. So I have some challenges. So Lance said, you should jump on and talk to these ladies. Maybe, you know, they could help you. So I'm kind of like Lance, where I don't let it stop me, but other people's mindsets have made real estate kind of challenging, in the respect that a lot of houses aren't friendly. So I have somebody that works with me, but instead of asking me how I do my job, they tell me afterwards that they wanted to hire me, but they didn't want to offend me by asking me how I do my job. So that's kind of why I joined in today.
Well, Tabitha, we're thrilled that you're here. And whereabouts are you calling from again, Tabitha? Just remind me.
Yeah, I'm from Ontario, Canada, so I'm between London and Sarnia.
Okay, cool. So we've got quite a growing group out in Toronto, and we'll make sure we get you the information for our meetup group as well. We'd love to have you, and of course we love promoting our favorite realtors. Sherry can attest to that.
Yep.
And yeah, and anything that we can do to support you, please reach out. And I'm sure that Elisa's in Toronto, and Alice is in Toronto, and Lynn, one of our other sponsors, is in Toronto. So we're starting to get bigger and better in Toronto, and we'd love to have more wonderful people. So really, really glad that you're here, and thank you so much for joining, and thanks for popping in and saying hi. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Lynn.
Terrific. Who else wants to say something? Looks like Elisa's ready.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Lance. You know, you're so inspirational in terms of your story. What really got me was, even though you had a job with the school, you still recognized that that job was not your dream job, and you're willing to give it up and go in a different direction. You're absolutely right. You know, if that market that you were currently serving isn't the market that you want to serve, take a pivot and go after your dream and help the people that you really want to serve.
Well, and at the end of the day, I told Tabitha on the call earlier today, I'm the type of person that doesn't like to settle. If I would have settled in that position, if I would have just said enough is enough and take it, I probably would have had a lot of health problems because my stress level would have been through the roof. And I don't want to do that to myself or my family. So, there were real practical reasons. Sure, it's a great job, but at the end of the day, if I feel like it's not going to work for me, I need to make a choice. And that's what happened.
And
that's
that's
a good observation.
that's
Sorry,
such,
I was just going to say.
Go ahead, Alice. Go ahead, Elisa.
Yeah, good observation, actually, that you attributed your stress level to your job, right? It wasn't something that you were doing, that it was your reaction to it. So that's awesome.
It's fantastic. And I think part of it, what resonates for me and what I think about in terms of what we've been talking about is, people are in a real shift right now. And so there's an opportunity, right? It gets back to that. I mean, Lance left a job that was a great job, but he knew that there were better opportunities out there for him, right? So in terms of, your health, is this COVID crisis an opportunity to improve your health? I mean, a lot of you have heard me talk about, I've been on this wild fit diet with my housemates, and collectively we've lost close to 70 pounds, and we all feel great, and we feel like taking care of our health and building our immune system has probably helped us fight COVID. We might have even had it, and we don't even know. Is it a chance to step back and build your wealth, right? So I actually pulled out, I'm just going to pull it out here from my little stack. For those of you who have been on a lot of the calls, this might look familiar to you, but we talked about how it was a great opportunity to work on your goals, right? So I'm just pulling it out here. You can see it. I decided to do this big goal sheet on an upside down world map. So because I love traveling so much, right, I picked this great big huge global world map, and I wrote on the back of it my goals, and I did my finance goals, my health goals, things that I wanted, people I wanted to surround myself with. So again, is it an opportunity to take this time and do something like, resetting your goals, looking at your finances and doing those kinds of things. So I love that message. And again, that's where when Lance and I were talking, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this is totally transferable, because the words possibilities and opportunities are things that we use all the time. And I just wanted to share Lance's message to show how it can relate to so many of us. It looks like Sherry, you're unmuted. Did you want to say anything, Sherry?
Oh, well, I've enjoyed, Lance really enjoyed your story. I think it's great, very inspirational about, you know, not viewing things as, oh, that's impossible, I could never do that. So really enjoyed that. I think that that's crucial for anyone to have that belief in yourself that, you know, I mean, you don't know if you don't try it, right? You don't, it's like putting in an offer on a property. You don't know if they're going to accept it until you try it. But you're not going to get it if you don't put in an offer, right? You know, 100% of the time you're not going to get it. You never make the offer. So nothing's impossible. So it's great to sort of, that was a good takeaway. And in regards to Tabitha, you know, I'm, you know, there is definitely issues with getting into houses where it's not really wheelchair friendly, that sort of thing. But, well, anyway, being in Victoria, we do have a lot of wheelchair friendly places for people to view. Takes a little bit while to hunt them down, but, you know, that's something there. So just make sure that, you know, the team that you're working with is aware and to make sure that they can make things happen to get you where you need to go.
Yeah, I have somebody that I work with. He's not, it's kind of weird how it happened, I guess. We did a deal together and then he offered to help me. So he doesn't work for my same brokerage, so it's not ideal in that my brokerage isn't really overly happy with that, but he hasn't let me down yet. So that's the arrangement I have right now. It's
That's
just more
good.
kind of like Lance. I don't limit my possibilities. I don't let you know, a negative mindset get in the way. It's how do I shift those other people? But like we were talking today, him and I, you know, I can't control the way other people think. I just have to try to get it out there somehow that this is how I work, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
can work. It's just you guys have to have an open mindset about it.
Right. And I mean, and nowadays, you know, the COVID's really brought out the virtual, like walking people through without physically being there.
Yes.
And it's worked well and it's well received. I mean, what a great way to do stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I can see a couple other people with their hands up. It looks like Joanna, it looks like you've got yourself unmuted. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't, it's my cup, but
That's okay.
But I've actually been joining the past 2 months, and I'm, you know, Lance, like I have to say, like with all my struggles, like and hearing yours, I'm like, wow. It just makes you realize that, you know, just whatever challenges we may be facing, that others, just being aware of other people's challenges might be even greater than yours, and not to make it feel better or to make your challenges less easy. It just, I don't know, it just gives perspective, I think. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank all of you women on WREN. You are all inspiring. You have truly like inspired me. And it's been very difficult for me, this COVID, because I was planning to move from shared accommodation and then it shut down. So it was both my economics, because I work in the film industry, and there was already a rental market crisis in Toronto before the pandemic. So I was in a very double whammy of tremendous instability. Anyways, though, but yeah, coming from out of fear into management mode is now I'm just getting into management zone. Like it's still, I still binge watch, I still, you know, but like I'm getting over to the next zone. So, but, and I can't tell you, like coming onto WREN every week has been a tremendous factor in my ability to actually get out of fear zone. And yeah, I'm so inspired and motivated by all of you. And so I thank you all so much for providing this for all of us. And I just want you to know, because virtual you can't really tell, but you've had such a positive impact on my life. And I deeply thank you all for that.
Well, and thank you so much for sharing, Joanna. You and I have talked a couple times over the last few weeks, and you have just gushed about how this has helped you. And so that's why we're here. We,
Yes.
you know, we're here to be a trusted tribe, and we all help each other, and we all have times when we're struggling, and we have times when we just want to fall down and stick our head in the sand and binge watch, and we've all said that's okay, right? We have to be allowed to do that as well. And then when you're ready to crawl out, we're here and we're ready to scoop you up, and that's a big part of what's going on right now. And so many people are ready to move forward and have already started. Like Lance is like out of the starting gates and halfway done the race, and there's others of us that are just lacing up our shoes and getting ready to get back in the game. So wherever you are, don't be hard on yourself, but make sure that you reach out and that you somehow find a way to just stay engaged and stay in the game and stay active. And that's the key. You don't have to be moving at any pace other than your own, but you want to be, you know, stay in the game and make sure that you've got a good group of support people to lean on. Awesome. Anybody else want to say anything? I see a couple of other unmuted microphones, but I don't want to jump in. So if you're ready, go ahead. Looks like it's all quiet. All is quiet. So I'll just jump into the chat box again and just see if there were any last minute things that people wanted to share. And then we'll just do a quick update on some of the things that are happening. And then, gosh, that's another hour, right? It's amazing how fast it goes. We're just racing through this. So super grateful to Lance for being here and sharing his story. As I say, we talked a lot yesterday, and we talked about, you know, just to highlight, we talked about, you know, being a person with disabilities who's in isolation. I mean, imagine the challenges. You know, thankfully he had someone at university that he could lean on, and imagine if you didn't have that. What are your coping skills? You know, what are you figuring out that you can tap into so that you've got some coping skills? Are you getting outside? Are you getting some fresh air? Are you getting some exercise? Are you eating healthy? Are you taking care of yourself? One of the things, Lance, that we didn't touch on that I just wanted to highlight here, and I think you'll all get the picture of this. You know, Lance, as Elisa mentioned, Lance left a safe job, and we talked yesterday. Lance wants to be the guy with the big stick. He wants to be the guy who makes the big decisions. And so, you know, he's putting himself in a position where, as a big picture thinker, he can be able to do that. So, you know, he'll be able to attract, you know, the right admin people and the right social media people who can support him, and I'm sure that there will be lots of people who will want to support him on his journey, because yes, you're definitely a big picture thinker, and it's just been great having you here. Opportunity, creativity, we've talked about all kinds of things. So if anybody's got any last minute things that they want to pop in that box, just feel free. And in the meantime, while I'm kind of looking to see what people have got to say, I'm just going to do a little bit of a wrap up. Ladies, Sherry, do you have anything that you want to share with us in terms of what's been happening COVID-wise coming out? Any highlights for the week?
No, not really. We're waiting to see, you know, how long before BC lifts the emergency ban on the tenancy issues. But, you know, someone on a call last night was saying they heard a rumor that it was going to happen soon, but I don't really see it happening much until later in the summer. But so we're trying to keep tabs on that. In the meantime, BC Housing is still out there with tons of money, and they have a new program where they will finance projects. So that's a relatively new program, as opposed to where they either buy or they take an equity position if you're a nonprofit. So there's definitely money out there. There was an article that was written, and I saw this week, about rentals, and talking about rentals likely coming down, etc. And I just, what I've been telling people about that when I get asked is, remember that anything related to real estate is very local. And when articles come out, and even the CMHC report last week, those are very federal, and they're looking at the whole country. And as we know, this country is very large. And so, you've got to go and check out stuff and dig around for what's really happening in your local market, as opposed to what the forecast is for the country. So that's just my tip for the week.
Awesome. And Sherry, just to mention as well, last night you did your meetup group, and you talked about legacy planning. Is that right?
Well, we did estate planning. So we talked about, wills and power of attorneys and health directives, slanted to real estate investors, because that's our meetup. Because so oftentimes people have joint ventures, or they have corporations, and they don't understand, for example, that a personal power of attorney does not deal with corporations. So if you don't have another director in the company, or haven't done something to deal with that, if you have a corporation and you become incapacitated or unable to deal with things, it's a big issue. Also, you're allowed to have 2 wills if you have a corporation. Your corporation can have a separate will, and it doesn't have to be the same executor or anything, but it bypasses probate that way as well. So there was a lot of little tips in there that were really, really good.
Great.
So,
and I know we're going to cover some of that in our mastermind that we've got coming up. We're going to do a money mindset mastermind for women, and we're just finalizing our guest speakers. We've got Robin Farrell from Ocean 98.5 is going to join us. She's going to share her success story as part of our mindset. We have some great people coming up. I won't mention too many other of our guests, but we've got an amazing series of guest speakers lined up. It's going to be 6 weeks, starting probably the last week of June. We might start it on the summer solstice, and legacy planning will be part of that. I mean, we've for those of you who might remember, I had my rant a few weeks ago about the whole legacy thing, because I had two or three people who had not got their wills and their things together, and their kids and their children were struggling with last minute plans before they were getting ready to bury their family. So really, really important, and it's been a good time to get those kinds of things done. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Elisa, any updates that you want to mention? And just as an aside, somebody's got maybe somebody can mute. I know a couple people have, there's somebody who's got some noise in the background. I'm not sure if you can all hear that, but if you're not speaking, can you just hit your mute button? That would be terrific. And
Yeah, this week we had a really busy week, as Liza, as you mentioned before we got started today. We had some really good calls with a nonprofit organization here in Toronto. They're one of the stakeholders with the Golden Mile project that is in Scarborough. They're building the light rail transit along Eglinton Avenue, and they're located around Eglinton West and Victoria Park. So they represent, affordable housing specifically for women, actually. And so it was lovely to hear, the working group that they have put together, and they have invited WREN to be part of that to help, capacity build for some of these developers, for them to understand, the co-housing piece, co-living piece, and the possibilities, the opportunities. And it's wonderful because just last week we also saw the article about the Broadway corridor doing the same thing in Vancouver, with the LRT being built there. And again, the councillor there was looking for co-housing and co-living opportunities as a solution for the rental market.
So lots of opportunities. And yes, Elisa, as our co-housing chair with WREN, has been very busy, and she's just going to get busier because we know that is going to be something that grows as we come out of COVID. More and more people are going to kind of look at how they've been living alone in isolation, and they're going to start to build their family bubbles and their co-housing bubbles. So that's terrific. Let's see, Alice, I'm not sure if you were, I know you're here, but maybe you're hiding. I don't know if you've got any update for us, but feel free to jump in. Just we've got a couple minutes left. And Darlene had to jump off, but we'll see Darlene again. She'll be on the Money Mindset Mastermind as well. And there we are. Anybody have any last minute things to say? Dun, da, da, da.
Yeah, just have a great week, everybody.
Well, there we go. So a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today. I know we tried a little bit of a different technology. Lance, it was awesome to have you share your story.
Yes, thank you, Lance.
Awesome to just be so inspired about the possibilities and the opportunities. And, you know, we all wish you loads of luck. And I'm sure that if you need some support or need some help or need people to cheer you on, you could probably reach out to any of us, and we will be there to support your goals and your dreams as we are with each other as well. So best of luck to everybody. And it's just a couple minutes to 5 o'clock, so we've been just about an hour, and we will be sending out a newsletter with the new links coming up in June. And so if you have not signed up for the newsletter yet, please jump onto the WREN website. That's WREN.club. That's CLUB. So it's WREN.club. And if you go to the contact page, you'll be able to sign up for the newsletter. And that's where we always post the links on this homepage that you've been seeing. So you'll always be able to find the links there. For our WREN members, we'll be coming back to doing our members only webinars on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of the month. And for our non-members, we're going to continue to do a free meetup on the 2nd Wednesday of every month. So there's still some good stuff coming. And I'm going to be posting a survey that I'd love for people to take, so that we can that will help guide our future webinars coming up in the future. So thank you everybody for joining us, and big thanks to Lance and Tabitha. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks everybody. We'll give everybody a big wave and we'll say bye for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.